Well, I can tell you from first-hand experience, they don't listen to the residents of Colchester. They just
Yeah,
ever so
they
polite
don't have
nod their
to.
head and say, on your way.
They don't have to. As Gravesend, evidence is right here.
Mm,
They explain the reasons for their policies to the electors and the council taxpayers, but they're accountable to people.
yeah.
They've never had any of the people show up.
Mm,
If Colchester Council had 100 of the people turn up who went about properly getting themselves off the electoral register and reintroduce themselves, says, now we need to have a chat. That's
mm.
different. And that's what I'm trying to impart now, is to try and give people now the ammunition, the way out of this digital ID jungle. You mentioned previously that thought about buying land and putting it in a trust.
Mm.
Let's dispel the myth of trusts.
Yes, please do. But
Because
when the police turned up, what did you say to them to get them on to sling their hook?
In this episode, I'm going to be speaking to a gentleman called Clive, who contacted me after he saw the video I did with ex-lawyer Claire Wills-Harrison. And we were mulling over how to extract oneself successfully from this system. And Clive got in touch via a mutual friend, and he said he believed he had the answers I was seeking. Now, as it turns out, Clive and I have a lot of mutual friends and acquaintances, people whom I go to for advice. And they all speak very highly of Clive and tell me that he is the real deal, because Clive's journey into our governance system started because of a planning dispute. He ended up with 9 enforcement notices, and you can end up with enormous fines and even imprisonment. Now, he got the council to back off by the method that he will talk us through in just a moment. Now, Clive's original dispute kicked off because of a fence he put up without permission. So once that was all resolved, he then decided to test what he'd learned and push it to the limits. So he wrote to the chief exec of Mendip Council and the head of planning and various councillors and informed them that he was planning to build a property on this land, and do let him know if they had any objections. He didn't hear a peep. He's been steadily building it, and as you can see here, this part is just his chicken coop. So one can only imagine what his house is going to be like if this is what he's building for his chickens. But anyway, he's tested this thoroughly, and a couple of friends of mine have even visited him and seen it with their own eyes. So Clive walks his talk, and he's thoroughly tested what he's going to share with us today. Now, just because Clive has come so highly recommended to me, and I know he walks his talk, doesn't mean to say I'm going to follow what he says without thoroughly checking it. I've ordered the version of the book he talks about, and I'm going to read all of the legislation and everything he mentions in this interview, because we've reached the point now where we really have to stand on our own 2 feet and, metaphorically speaking, adorn our own armour and carry our own sword. You can't just follow the steps and do as he's done without knowing what he knows. Because if you get this stuff wrong, you could end up inside faster than you can blink. Although, let's face it, these days you can end up inside faster than you can blink just for a social media post, so at least this is more worthwhile. But anyway, I'm going to check there's no holes in that armour. I'm not willing to follow anyone blindly, and I can't imagine for a minute Clive would be upset by that. In fact, I think he'd be more upset if I didn't do my due diligence. And we don't really have many options left to us. You either go along with the system that will mean complete and utter enslavement for you and future generations, or we try and stand up to the level of tyranny that is being bombarded at us on a daily basis. And we can try and do that from inside the system or step out of it. And nothing that he said in this video is to be construed as legal advice, because it definitely isn't that.
Okay, well, I'm here today with Clive Edwards, although I suppose I should really just call him Clive, but I know definitely not to call him Mr. Edwards, and that will all be explained as we get going. Now, to give you a brief history of Clive, he was just an ordinary man minding his own business, but he dared to put a fence inside the hedge on his own property. Just shocking behaviour, Clive. And before he knew it, he had someone from the council with a clipboard round, and also he was doing something even worse than putting a fence up to secure his property. He had a few building materials very neatly stored behind a hedge. And yes, you definitely can't do that on land without permission. So that set rather a roller coaster ride of him learning about law and our legal system and governance. So Clive, welcome. and thank you for your time today.
Hi, Rachel, and thank you so much for having me on Colchester Council Watch.
Yes, and also this will go out on Clear Air FM, the new freedom of speech radio station as well. Now, before we get going, what I thought I'd do is, because we have a very mixed audience here, we've got people that are incredibly knowledgeable and those who know nothing, and I'm probably somewhere in the middle, leaning more towards the not knowing much. So I thought I'd give an overall explanation of what I think goes on with our governance system, and then Clive can correct all my mistakes, and then people that aren't up to speed with this will learn from what he says. So I'm going to start off with what a country is. Most of us assume that we are standing in our country, but that isn't the case. A country is not a physical landmass. It is a political and governance structure,
It's a
social
political
construct. Yes,
Yeah.
it's not a real place, basically. So the land mass we physically stand on is called Great Britain, which consists of England, Scotland, and Wales. But the United Kingdom, which is a construct, that includes Northern Ireland. So it's not technically a real place. It's a territory that is governed over. So obviously you need land to have a country. So that's where it gets a little bit confusing. And then we get to the different jurisdictions that all of this stuff creates. Now, this is where I get a little bit hazy, because we have a whole history of different types of law. So divine law and natural law, then I think it was common law and equity, and a whole load of stuff. And then it appears we've got this modern legal system bolted on top of that. And goodness only knows how many different types of law, this statute law, administrative law, civil, criminal, the list goes on. And then international, it just is never ending. So I'm a bit hazy about how it all works. But the premise, the further you go back in our system, we get our constitution. Now, there's what people believe is our codified constitution from the 1688 Bill of Rights, or whether you go back further to the uncodified, which is a collection of documents like the Magna Carta, for example. In those documents, they basically give the pecking order of power, and that is God, stroke higher power, whatever you want to call it. Then we, the people, then it's Parliament and the monarchy and the agents of government, like the police, etc. So regardless of whether you're religious or not, that's a pretty impressive pecking order. That it's a higher power, we the people, and the government, etc., are meant to be working on our behalf. They are our servants. But as we all know, that isn't really the reality of it all. But where it gets interesting, watching Clive's talks, is that because we are on the electoral roll, that takes us out of our position of power and we become a citizen, a third-class citizen. And because we're on the electoral roll, we've agreed to them to govern over us in a way that basically we're their bitch. They can do and say whatever they want, and we have to do it because we're on that electoral roll. We've taken ourselves from a position of power down to one of very lowly standing. But the old system was more sort of my rights end where your rights begin. So it was much more empowering. And we've been moved over to basically majority mob rule with so-called democracy. But I think the older systems were more in line with the rights of the individual were what was most important. And the law of the land, well, that may not be the right term, but it was decided not by judges and the government, it was decided by your peers, 12 of your peers in trial by jury. So that is how we were governed. It was more self-governing, far more empowering. It didn't have all these rules and regulations. So when you realise that we're meant to be having the government answerable to us, and you look at how inverted everything has become, all these rules and regulations they've placed upon us, they can only do so because of our consent to it. So that's what I think I know, Clive. Please pick through that and correct.
That's a whole bag of eels you've just handed me there, Rachel. And,
I'm sure.
Thank you for that. Well, let's go for a few of those things, shall we? Well, firstly, I'd just like to turn the tables and just put to you and your audience, just to have something in the back of your mind. You don't have to necessarily answer it right now, but Do you and your audience believe there's no other way of existing outside of man's governance in Parliament in London? Faceless bureaucrats in London telling you how to live your life. That's a question I would like to permeate through this discussion. Have a think about that, and well, by the end of it, we'll know the answer. So, yeah, I like to cut through all of that, Rachel. Everything you said, I like to distill things into being very simple. As you said, I'm a carpenter by trade, and I like to deal in logic. A plus B has to equal C. Or if you're cutting rafters, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right, but so yeah, with regards to law and governance, now obviously United Kingdom can mean many things to many people in many different situations, but I talk about law and governance. So in terms of law and governance, United Kingdom is a body politic, as you touched upon, and a body politic is exactly that. It's a political construct. It's not a physical thing. And the example I often like to give at my talks and is to offer a full inclusive family holiday to Yugoslavia free of charge on me. And of course, you can't take that anymore because Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore. Of course, the landmass is still there, just like Britain. So Britain is the landmass, the British Isles are the landmass, and out of that landmass operates this, you think of it in terms of like a corporation like Tesco, or that operates out of the British Isles. So again, going back to just cut through all of the nonsense, and because I had to deal with things, I had to just ask myself the question, how on earth am I being governed? Because this guy turned up, and I had no interactions with the council, none whatsoever. This guy turns up with a clipboard, head of enforcement, and says to me, Clive, you're going to have to stop what you're doing. And then he went on to say about the building materials and things, and I thought, crikey, that potentially could be the end of my business. And all I'm doing is putting up a wooden fence. So, and it really, my life came to a grinding halt, okay? I was traveling at 100 mile an hour, and this guy came up, pulled the handbrake up, and I was like in a tailspin. So the first question I had to ask myself was, how on earth did these persons from the council get their authority over me? I've never met this bloke before. And he was threatening my existence. So it was a real tangible thing I had to grapple with. And planning enforcement, I'm sure a lot of your audience will know, is an indictable offence. And that means it's not a trivial matter.
No, I didn't know that till I started watching your stuff. It's really properly serious, isn't it?
Yeah, and I didn't realise. Yeah, when they come to me with planning matter, I just sort of almost laughed it away. I thought, yeah, nice try.
On your bike, bye.
Yeah, but I came to find out in the coming months and years that followed that it's an indictable offence, which means planning enforcement. If you don't comply with a planning enforcement notice, it means unlimited fines for planning cases. So what they normally do is fine you more than the value of your land and the house you've built is worth, and then they can bulldoze it, knock it down, give you the bill, and if you can't pay the bill or the fine, they take your land and they can force a sale of land. These are like real things. The state, yeah, you think you're free, just try putting up a fence or an extension on your house. We'll see how free you are. Or withhold your payment of tax for a little bit. And so, yeah, I came to find out that indictable offences are very serious things, and can be a Crown Court matter and imprisonable. So, yeah, to cut through everything, all of that, what you said, because I just try and simplify things. So on Earth, as mankind, there's only two jurisdictions you can ever be in. You can be under the governance of God or the governance of man. That's it. Only two jurisdictions, the only two matters of control, government, that you can be under, and that's government of Christ under the Bible and the biblical teachings, or the government of man under the Crown. With that comes, there's only two. I'm looking at Rachel now. Now, you're either going to be one of these two things. You're either going to be one of the electorate, which the clue's in the title there, electorate, elections, voting. You're going to be one of the persons under the Crown, a state citizen, or you're going to be one of the people under God. And I noticed in your introduction, and a lot of people do this, but it needs to be sort of talked about, is you mentioned that the people in the Bill of Rights. There's no people in the Bill of Rights, 1688, because that, again, there's only two jurisdictions. So that deals with state citizens. you mentioned a whole raft of things, but I can cut through all that by telling you, if it's on Parliament's books, it belongs to the body politic. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
If it's on Parliament's books, it is under the control. If you're claiming anything from the parliamentary books, you're under the control of the body politic. That means you're under the control of mankind, the crown. Whereas if you're reaching for the Bible and the state authorized the KJV 1611, now just a little point on that, they authorized the KJV 1611 Bible because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different versions of Bible out there.
Mm.
Kind of basically saying, if you're going to start quoting the Bible at us, you best use this one that we've authorized so that we know the words you're using and we're all singing from the same song sheet. Because it's no good turning into, relying on an NIV, a New International Version, some of these other new versions. So anyway, the crown.
Get me a copy of that.
Yeah. And so they've given us, I mean, the Bible, when you mention Bible and God, it automatically switches people off. They may even laugh about it or whatever. But they've done a good job of turning us away from that book where freedom lays. Your freedom lays in that book. And so at law, if you're relying on evidence, this is another huge point. So there's only two jurisdictions, the governance of man and the governance of God. So there's only two areas you can rely upon for your evidence for a court case. It's got to be from the parliamentary side, the body politic, acts and statutes and legislation and common law, that's case law, or you can reach straight for the Bible. And they've told you which Bible you can use.
Mm-hmm.
That's it as far as evidence is concerned.
Because when I've run this through AI, it absolutely disputes it and says, no, divine law was just the inspiration for our current system. And it doesn't matter which one I ask or how I try and go round in circles, because I'm used to trying to get the truth out of AI. It just will not have it.
2 points on that. Artificial means falsehood, a lie.
Mm.
And you often hear people when they're talking to you about AI, and I've asked AI, I had to trick it into giving me the right answer.
Why
would
you have to trick it?
Giving you the right answer. That should tell you everything you need to know about AI.
The reason I do it, though, is because we know where this is going. They want our courts to be all AI. So I always try and see if I can get my argument past it. Because once they've taken people out of it, and I don't know whether the rules of this realm, whether karma will affect machines. I hope it does. But if it doesn't, you can see why they're desperate to get everything controlled by machines, because then they can get them to do whatever they want and they can throw the Bible out the window.
Yeah. Well, they can almost throw the Bible out the window now because there's not many people left at Britain.
Mind you, they kind of have, because you don't have to swear an oath on the Bible anymore. You can just say that you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth without the Bible. So they have started to.
So in law and governance, I told you there's only two things you could ever be at law. I'm talking about at law. So one of the electorate or one of the people. And there's only two systems there are on the whole face of the earth, under man or under God. Well, I want to go back to the hierarchy. I said there's two systems, and your AI told you that it's inspired from the Bible, which is true. It's a derivative of the Bible. What man's system of law and government, because the biblical system is perfection, and we wouldn't get onto it now if you like, because the biblical system is perfection, the legal system just mimic and copy it, and they remove Christ and put man in place. It's so important to understand this. And so on the legal side, believe it or not, King Charles is what is known. One of his titles is the father of the nation. I'll get on to explain the families, the two families, because it's just mirrored. So on the biblical side, the Church of Christ, because it says in the Bible, you don't need to go to church to worship, to worship Christ. We are the living, what's known as the living stones. Those that follow Christ are known as the living stones. So Mother Church is Christ's church on the biblical side. So on the legal side, it's the Church of England's Mother Church. That's what the Church of England is known as, Mother Church.
Mm-hmm.
And on the legal side, the electorate or citizens are what is known as wards of the state. And it all ties in, because we'll get onto wards and district in a minute when we talk about voting and things and councils' constitutions. Yeah, so on the legal side, you are what is known as an infant, a ward of the state. Mm-hmm. And on the biblical side, you're children of God.
Right.
So that's just a very simplistic, but that's the nuts and bolts of it. Two families. there's the lawful side and the legal side. So just to emphasize that, people often say lawful and legal, and they don't really know the difference between the two. Or that is the two jurisdictions that we spoke about. There's only two things. The lawful side is the jurisdiction of God and the Bible. The legal side's man's jurisdiction of Parliament and the Crown. Those are the two systems of law and governance.
So we've basically got to make sure we serve the right one, and they do that with the electoral roll. Again, AI would not have it that there was anything to the electoral roll other than the right to vote. It wouldn't.
You said it there. You've got to make sure we serve the right one, and the Bible says no man can serve two masters. So the Bible warns against man's political legal system. AI, you're not going to find these answers in Google. I mean, part of the issue is you might even need to know what the right questions to ask as well, is what I found, because I've ran some of this through AI myself. So yeah, asking the right question, and often as you've said, and other people I've spoken with, sometimes you have to ask AI again, because it's given me an answer and I said, no, that's not right because of this. And it's gone, oh, yes, you're right.
You have to know the answer yourself before you ask the question.
So, and when you know the answer, you don't need AI as well. That's the other thing. When you understand it, you won't need to ask AI. It's good to, I use AI to go and find reference works.
Yeah, well, I know people are going to want to check into what we're saying, so I wanted to look at what we were going to be dished up, so that we can cover that, so that people go, "Oh, right, okay," rather than what they've said is a load of rubbish.
Agree. And I'm the guy. I bring evidence to all of my talks. Now, I haven't prepared a talk for this discussion because I wanted to do it more freestyle. But my website, capillarywave.com, is just full of. I walk people through the system of law and governance. It's a reason it was never available to me when I started out, and it would have saved me 10 years of my life. But having said that, going through all those years of study has given me an extremely good grounding and understanding of the two systems. Now, I don't profess to know everything there is to know about both systems, but I've had to learn it from a practical point of view. I've had to physically keep myself out of prison through this knowledge, because had I got this wrong, I'd be in prison by now. That's the facts of the matter. So yeah, it's lived experience, and on my website I put forth articles that explain to people, fully referenced and fully evidenced, some of the things we talk about, so it can be referenced there as well.
So the vast majority of us are in the wrong camp. What do we need to do? Because basically, if they want to force a digital ID on their citizens, they can do, because we've signed up for it. So I know you talk about coming off the electoral register, but that just sounds far too easy. I can't imagine they just say, "Oh, right then, bye." I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that. So can you kind of delve into that?
You're so absolutely right to point that out. Now, before we get into that, if we can bookmark this, I'd just like to evidence the two positions of state throughout the state actors. So this is not my opinion on these two jurisdictions, the legal and lawful. So the king, he wears two crowns of office. He's got a St. Edward's crown. These are evidenced in the monarch's coronations, and I've evidenced it on my website. So the king wears the St. Edward's crown. That's the crown of God, and that's the crown that signifies the jurisdiction of God and his people. And he also wears, in the same ceremony, he puts the two different crowns on. In the same ceremony, he'll then put on the imperial crown. And imperial means Roman. And that's important, because the system of law involved in body politics is the civil system, civil law. And civil law is Roman law. And civil law is the definition of civil law states that it's secularly organized, is secular. And the definition of secular means it is devoid in ethics and morality and a belief in God.
It's separate from God, isn't it? But it doesn't. It depends. It's only a religious person would call it immoral, though.
That's the definition. I sent you for our chat. I sent you a definition of.
Yes, I've got that.
So we can perhaps pop that up on the screen. But
yeah, I will do.
So yeah, the definition of secular means lacking in ethics and morality and a belief in God. And the other side.
I've got it. Okay, I'll bring it up. Right, secular, in reference to clergy living in the world, not belonging to a religious order, also generally belonging to the state as opposed to the church.
Keep going. I sent you this in two parts. That is.
Oh, is it? Oh, hang on.
at the bottom it says, in reference to humanism, the exclusion of belief in God, matters of ethics and morality.
Oh, I haven't got that one.
I'll send it through.
Yeah, send it through and then I can pop it on the screen.
Of or belonging to the world, concerned in earthly more than spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Exclusion of belief in God from matters of ethics and morality.
Yeah.
Now, that would have to be the case because they removed God on the legal side and put man in the place. They put a king in place.
Yeah.
So Christ is king on one side and King Charles is the king on the earthly side.
Gotcha.
That's why it's secular. And there's plenty of evidence of that because we don't have the overall picture. We're not given the overall picture. So the word definitions for me were the jigsaw pieces, and the Bible was it gave me the overview of the full picture. So I was able to using the Bible, I was able to put these definitions and laws together and see the bigger picture.
Yeah, you've really got to pay attention to the words, haven't you? You can't just think you know what something means, even like definition of country. You've almost got to kind of got to go through everything and check it means what you think it means.
You have to read it. The Bible is the book of law, and it
Mm.
needs to be read as such, like extremely diligently. The Bible says, "Do not alter one jot or tittle," and in obviously modern parlance, that's crossing the I's and dotting the T's. Like, don't touch the book.
Mm.
And it's the same. You can't, start messing about with contracts even between mankind. You can't say, I'll just get rid of that word. These things are extremely important. And as you say, so country comes from the word contra, which means opposite. And obviously, given the explanations that we've just talked about, it's obvious now why it's opposite, because it's opposite to the teachings of the Bible.
The problem I have with the Bible, though, is one, it's a document that's been translated, and with the best will in the world, you always lose something in translation. And two, we know it's been interfered with. Everyone and their brother has either put something in or removed it. So it's like, well, which bits do you trust?
That's a really good point. And you've got the same. That question is a question that crossed my mind, and some of your audience can ponder that question. Now, I had to ponder that question, and my freedom depended on it.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a wife, child, and I didn't want to go to prison, so it's a really important question. So I managed to find an act of Parliament called the Confession of Faith Ratification Act 1560,
Mm-hmm.
and in that act, it states that the Bible is the infallible truth.
Mm-hmm.
Infallible means exempt from error in knowledge, opinion, or judgment. So what we've got here is a situation where the inferior legal system says that the Bible is the infallible truth. Now, if you're floating around without an anchor or a buoy or a surfboard at sea, as I was, and your enemy, the shark, is coming at you, and the shark says, there's a life buoy there, it's true, I'll take the life buoy. And that life buoy will defend me against the shark.
Mm-hmm.
And as my journey through law and governance progressed, I've come to fully understand and know that that book is the truth. It's to going back to your point, it matters not what you believe or what I believe. Your enemies say that that book's true.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and through experience, and if you start reading the book and using that book to defend yourself, I think anyone who does that will also come to that conclusion. But yeah, because when I started, Rachel, I wouldn't have gone so far as to say I was atheist, because that would have been a bit strong. I wouldn't have liked to have given a hard answer on that, but I wouldn't have liked to have a chat with you about the Bible either. I don't believe anyone in my family ever owned a Bible. As far as
I had a lot of exposure to it growing up, and we did religious education right up until I was 15, I think, and Sunday school. And Mum used to take me to the church because she thought she should, but she got kicked out of Bible class because she asked too many awkward questions, which was quite funny. But anyway, I did have a lot of exposure as a young person, and I've not read it since. So my views on the Bible are from a 15-year-old, so I do need to read it now as an adult with the eyes to see. And I've got some very religious friends, and I've had this conversation and said, look, because I'm very black and white, I like to know what I read is correct or not. And she said, look, Rachel, it doesn't matter it's been interfered with. You will get the truth from it. You'll be able to discern it. The bad ones read it all the time trying to pick out the truth, but they can't get it. But she said, anyone with a good heart will get what you need from it. Don't worry.
So insightful, so true. Your friend that told you that is absolutely, I concur with that completely. And that's also why Jesus spoke in parables. It wasn't for the ears of everyone. There
Yeah.
are bad ones in this world. It's not all just skipping through fields of daisies. There are evil people in this world. It says in the Bible, Satan's got his children here too. So I'll just park that there. But if people want to, if people would like to explore this further, because religion, I'm not religious.
No, me neither. But I do very much believe in a higher power and
Yeah,
that
it's the
connection.
religious lot that got Jesus killed, the Pharisees.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And funny enough, the religious lot that down my neck of the woods were the ones moaning and complaining to the council about me minding my own business and and planning enforcement policy, planning enforcement notices are started from a complaint. God hates complainers because a complaint is an appeal to an authority. Well, you're appealing to the council when you should be appealing to God.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible states about busybodies. I think it mentions busybodies in the same sentence as murderers.
Oh,
Half
well,
the problem, yeah. Half the problems that I got is because people can't mind their own business. I was doing nobody any harm. I'm
no.
their neighbour.
Yeah.
What happened to love thy neighbour?
Neighbour. Yeah.
You know, this used to be my grand's generation. It's like mind your own business, and you know,
Mm.
but
Because as long as you don't cause any harm, loss, or injury to another, you can
exactly.
pretty much do what you want. In
Jesus
theory.
said, "Love your neighbour as you love yourself." So
Mm.
you're not going to, you know, that's self-explanatory, isn't it? So I got the state coming at me on the one hand, and I'm looking at what they say is true and what's not true, and where they get their authority. And all of the state invoke the Bible and swear oaths. Now,
Mm.
oaths are invoke something higher than mankind, and at all their ceremonies they bring out the Bible. Something, well, the Bible's clearly important.
Mm.
And then, you know, at some point in my journey, I've come across this confession of faith ratification, which says that the legal lot, the people that were coming after me, state that book's the infallible truth. So I thought, well, I'd best have a look at it then, see what it's got to say.
Mm.
And I was surprised when I started reading it. It warns against man's secular system, because the first commandment is have no other gods before me. And the first commandment is a small g God, which means earthly kings and rulers and judges. So all citizens and the electorate have broken the very first commandment.
Yeah. Okay, so we're all staring, well, not all of us, but those of us that are still citizens are staring down the barrel of a gun with digital ID. What do
Yes.
people need to do to get themselves on Team Bible rather than Team
Yeah. And I would say
iPad?
this because it's an important point. Look, I guess at the start of my journey, I wasn't Team Bible. I wasn't Team Jesus. All right. I was looking to get the heat of the state off me. And perhaps we all start at that starting point. But what I would say is you need an understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
If you haven't got an understanding of why you're doing it, if it's just because, oh, Rachel said you got to just get your name off the electorate, you're lost at sea. You've got no clue what you're doing and why you're doing it. You're going to be fall foul very easily to sharks.
Yeah.
So my very first thing is to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. So I had to prepare myself for a court case.
Mm-hmm.
I fully of the impression, and I was scared of court, like most of us are.
Mm-hmm.
Scary place to be because we don't know what's going on. And there's very bad things that can happen off the back of it. So I was scared of going to court. I knew that I couldn't be in a court of law and tell lies. So I couldn't be in a court of law and say that I'm one of the people under God if they've got evidence of the fact that I'm on their electoral register. Now, it took me a long time speaking to many people to work out that it was the electoral register that gave that you broke the first commandment and then gave consent to the legal system and made you one of the electorate, one of their citizens. That wasn't an easy thing to find out, but you know that was part of my journey. I was like, crikey, yeah. So what that comes about through the Representation of the People Act. It's not the Representation of the Residents Act.
Mm.
The Representation of Citizens Act. Okay, it's the representation. They represent people. You can represent a cow as a burger.
Yeah.
So they represent people as citizens and persons of the state. That's what that's what happens. Because that's the very point. When you vote and vow are synonymous terms. They're almost interchangeable. And a vow is, well, we know what a vow was. Anyone who's got married, or like, it's a serious word, isn't it? Okay,
Mm.
it's a pledge to a deity. That's what it means, a vow. So a vote is a pledge to your new gods,
Gosh.
and that's why God doesn't like it. It's like, I'm your father. not King Charles. The Bible also says, call no man on earth your father apart from me. So all the clues are there. It's like, do not go and give yourself and make yourself subject to a man, another man. I'm God. I'm your father. That's essentially what God's saying. And we ignore that. So going back to my court case, I didn't want to be in a courtroom saying that I'm one of the people when they've got a record of me on some electoral register somewhere. So they would have really took my head off had that happened. So I had to rectify that. That's the first thing I had to rectify. Now, when I'm writing to the council, or if I ever end up in a courtroom, which they've never wanted me to take me to court, but we'll get onto that. So if I ever end up in a courtroom, when I say I'm one of the people, it's true. There's no record they can find with me on an electoral register where I've consented to King Charles and to be a subject of the king. I rectified that. So that is the very first thing your audience and anyone who's interested in getting away from digital ID. I mean, to put it in biblical terms, this digital ID stuff, we're getting near the mark of the beast scenario. I mean, You don't even have to be religious to understand that. If people can't see that now, I don't know what to say. I don't know what can help you, but that's coming thick and fast, isn't it? So I feel we're in biblical time. Well, I know we're in biblical times, but and you're right. Digital ID is the basically now the drawing in of the triggering of the snare. If people fall into that, then you are well and truly under the control of the government, and that's why they're doing this. If you've got a company now, they're getting directors, aren't they? They're going to take away. I listened to your talk with Claire Wills
Harrison.
Yeah, and she had it bang on. I think they're taking away all their toys now that they've got us addicted to. They'll be using those toys to tempt us into that digital ID. But like her, I'm more than prepared to leave it all behind and go back to tending my chickens.
Yeah, me too. I instructed my accountant yesterday to shut my business down, so it's in progress. Now, interestingly, so have you got to be presumably completely out of the system, because a family member has now offered me a job and they said, well, you know, because you're not going to be working for anyone else, we'll have to put you on PAYE. And I'm going, yeah, I'd rather not, thanks. Because presumably if you've got even the tiniest foot in that door of the other system, you need to be out completely. You can't half dance because you've got two masters, haven't you?
Such a good question. Really good, insightful question. So we've just heard the definition of secular: living in the world, belonging to the state. Jesus told his followers to be in the world, but not of the world.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the electorate of the world, they belong to the state. They've got a different father. So look, the system is perfection. Jesus and Mary took Jesus to be registered. It said the word in the Bible is tax, but if you look at the Strongs, it says registered.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was registered. It says the birth of Jesus was on the wise. I'll just put that out there. But so this system, there's no way around the system. It's perfection. I always tell people I use the law to free myself from the government. So we're to be in the world but not of it. So of course you can have a job.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't advise having a job that's directly under the crown. But if you're working for a friend, because a job direct to the crown obviously is working for the beast, isn't it? Working for the state. So, but having a job with a friend or is going to employ you, there's no harm in that. And that's what the birth certificate is for. That is, in my opinion, the ticket in between the two jurisdictions.
I've actually lost my birth certificate. I don't know where it went when I moved.
Yeah.
Do you need that for anything, to kind of send it back to them, or to?
I haven't done that. No, because I believe
it doesn't matter that I've lost it.
Not particularly.
Okay.
That's the so to get a job, you're going to need a legal name. Rachel Matthews.
Yeah.
Only Rachel Matthews can get a job, and then So, but I don't pay tax. When I come out of the system, one of the first things I did was write to HMRC. I write to these people and tell them and have a discussion with them. And I said, I'm not paying tax anymore. It's unlawful in the Bible to pay tax. Now, that's going to get a lot of Christians up in arms. But I would advise them to go and see my article, Government versus God, where I dissect that in great detail.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
I want to be completely out of their system. I'm done with it.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, I will do one more tax return because I think they owe me money. So, but after that,
right, yeah,
done.
Yeah. Yeah, so they don't owe you money; they owe Rachel Matthews money. But that's
Yeah,
another subject.
that's true. Yes, that's the point. I alluded to that when I introduced you about the names. So
yeah.
go into that.
So when everybody that arrives in a hospital and every newborn gets a certificate, and it's called the birth certificate. It's called the birth certificate, but nowhere on that document does it say it's a birth certificate, because that's not what it is. Nowhere on that document does it say this is a birth certificate. It's a certified copy of an entry.
Mm-hmm.
And on my website, I've evidenced what entry means, entering into society. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the ticket that can allow you to enter into the political construct of a body politic, a country. Yeah, and so that is the legal name. Now, at law, there's no such thing as a middle name at law.
Oh.
So at law, there's no such thing as a middle name. So you've only got a Christian name and there's a surname, and they're both separate and distinct things at law.
Mm.
A legal name is the two of those is a surname, a Christian name and a surname put together.
Because a corporation cannot interact with a real live person. They have to have another corporation.
Absolutely. Now, that's a crucial point, Rachel, okay? Because we've just I evidence all throughout my website, and we just discussed the fact that United Kingdom is a body politic, which is a political construct.
Mm.
So, common sense terms, people can't live in a political construct.
No, they can't.
People sorry, you don't live on Britain either. You live in your body.
Mm.
But people exist on Britain, and the electorate believe that they live in the United Kingdom. Well, that certified copy of an entry is. It's your ticket to do business in the political construct.
And that's why it's in capital letters, like corporations are in capital letters.
People mistake that as well. Mine isn't all in capital letters. Only the surname is.
Okay. Only the surname.
Because it's the conjunction of a surname, which is a state name, and that's a title, and the Christian name. So the Christian name's in uppercase and lowercase, and the surname's in all uppercase. It's a title.
Right.
Things that are in all uppercase are titles.
Okay.
It's really important. The United Kingdom is a title. That's all it is. A title on a piece of paper.
Yeah, it's not a real thing.
That's right. And that's why the Crown only has jurisdiction over titles, like your V5, like your mortgage, like a land title. It only deals in titles because that's all that system is, titles.
Yeah.
So when you accept that legal name, if you accept their title, they'll then get jurisdiction over you. That's why the birth certificate, I'll just go back to its commonly used phrase, the birth certificate, says on the bottom of mine, not to be used as evidence of identity. It says it as a warning. Because even they're saying it's not you. What do we do? Pick it up and go, yeah, that's me, this is mine, me, mine. And that's when they get to beat you up.
So this legal name, I've heard it referred to as a legal fiction or your straw man. But a lot of people I know that really go into law in a big way say, whatever you do, do not rely in court on the straw man argument or the legal fiction, because they will just crucify you. So I've always avoided it, and I'm always like, oh no, I'm not going near that. But is it because you're still on the electoral roll? If you deal with that, then you can separate yourself out.
Again, really good points. Okay, so we've just talked about the fact that the United Kingdom is a political construct. It doesn't exist. It's what's known in law as a legal fiction.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to be scared about that term, legal fiction. So the certified copy of an entry evidences another legal fiction. So evidence is Rachel Matthews, this legal fiction that lives, in quotes, in the United Kingdom. It's a legal fiction for legal fictions. So don't be afraid of it. That's what it is. And their documents evidence this. So, yeah, you're right. So at court, like, firstly, you don't want to be on the electoral register, because for number one, if you're on the electoral register, it means you agreed to all the acts and statutes, mandates, tax, the whole lot. So the only reason you're at court is if you're being a disobedient citizen, which you said you wouldn't do. They're going to really beat you up. That's why it was important that I had to get rid of all those titles and all that baggage, because in the legal realm, a citizen is supposed to ask the authority, the local authority, for permission to build a house or put an extension on a house. So I had to get rid of all of those. I had to correct that. And obviously, Clive Edwards, just like Rachel Matthews, is a legal name. So at court, ill-advised to be using a legal name, because if you're touching anything that's legal or claiming anything that's legal, then you're in the jurisdiction of the legal system.
Mm.
Two systems. So it's no coincidence that like Rachel is what is known as a Christian name.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah. You're not, trust me, you're not going to be going, no one can take you to court if you stay in the safety of your Christian name.
Mm.
They need you to be Mrs. Matthews or Rachel Matthews. Then they'll be able to shuffle you off to court.
Mm.
You
No,
ain't going to court if you're Rachel.
Yeah. Now, the worrying thing the thing that bothers me the most is that most people do not know any of what you've just said, including the people in the police, the courts, the people doing all of this. So it's getting through to them, and it will be even worse if they do ever get their way and have robot AI courts. Then it's so. How do you get this across in a way that, because as you said, they haven't taken you to court because they haven't wanted to. And actually, when I was quizzing AI and it was saying that, everything that you're saying is completely wrong. And I said, well, hang on a minute. There's this guy in Somerset who did this, this and this. And AI, the best I could get out of it was saying, well, because he didn't go to court, there's no legal precedent for it. So therefore, it must have been an anomaly that you got away with it. That was the best answer I got out of it.
Yeah. To respond to that, the legal system now, there's an Act of Parliament called the Interpretation Act 1889. I think it's Section 2, but I evidence this in all of my talks pretty much.
Yeah.
Those that attend court for summary and indictable offences are what is known as a body corporate.
Yeah.
Now, this little note that I'm telling you about is in the side notations of the Act. Interestingly,
Right.
just like the Bible has side notations in the margin notations,
Mm-hmm.
so do their Acts of Parliaments. And in that margin notation, it says that it includes body corporate, and to include something is to exclude everything else. So if we're having a discussion today which includes X, Y, and Z, it excludes A, B, all the rest of the alphabet.
Right.
That's
Okay.
how the legal system works. When you include something, you exclude everything else. So
didn't know that.
again, these are all things I had to find out along the way. But of course, again, using common sense and logic, they have to convert you to a body corporate, as they call it, for indictable offences. That's why you have to appear at court. I often say, to explain the word appear, Ricky Gervais appears as David Brent.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Gervais is not David Brent, and David Brent can't appear as Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
So it's the imaginary again. So they have to get you to appear at court as something else. It's like being represented. It's the same deal. The representation of the people. The people have to be represented, and you're represented as a body corporate. That's why the Interpretation Act states that everyone who goes to court for summary indictable offences is seen as a body corporate, because how can one of the people turn up to a court in the United Kingdom? I asked Mendip District Council to take me to court, and they would not. I put it in letter form on more than one occasion, probably 3 or 4 times.
But this wasn't a walk in the park for you. They turned up with police and goodness knows what. So they didn't just roll over. You had to battle with it.
Being dropped.
But when the police turned up, what did you say to them to get them on to sling their hook?
Well, when they turned up, I didn't consent to anything. You have to have a mindset of, because when I understood some of this, Rachel, I knew that they were lying, because the secular system is based on lies.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew they were lying to me. They were saying my name's Mr. Edwards. Now I know, I'm just a simple guy. I know my name's not Mr. Edwards. It's not even on the birth certificate. Yet they were absolutely insistent that my name was. And I was like, what on earth's all this about? Now I've got brothers, uncles, and there's other males in my family line that could be Mr. Edwards could encapsulate.
Mm-hmm. So did you just turn around to them and say, that's not my name?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you can call me Clive. And that caused them all kinds of problems.
Really?
I was like, I'll do that more often. Yeah. And that's what I advise members of Capillary Wave to do now. The very first thing you should do, I often use a silly analogy. And so if you were in a restaurant and I walked into the restaurant and said, Rebecca Chalmers, I haven't seen you since school. How on earth are you? Are you still breeding grey parrots? And you turned around and said,
I'll be
oh,
looking
no.
behind me to see who you were talking to.
If you turned around and started talking to me about grey parrots, it's natural that I would assume that you're Rachel Chalmers or Rebecca Chalmers. Whereas what you'd normally do is say, I'm ever so sorry, my name's Rachel. I think you're mistaken. Now, why don't you do that with the council? Because that's when the very first thing you need to be doing to your council saying, I'm ever so sorry, I think you're mistaken. My Christian name's Rachel. That's true. That's not a lie. That is true. They're
And when
trying to
they
say,
try and put your surname on, then do you say no?
no, don't search that
That's right.
surname. That's cursed. It says in the Bible it's cursed. So,
Is it true surnames are copyrighted? Because I saw something on that this morning. I thought, and then if you use it, you're violating the copyright or something.
Yeah, well, again, it's a can of worms. It's not necessary to open. I just don't touch it. It's a legal name. I know that much. It says on the document that their document says don't use it as identity. So I'll take them at their word.
Okay.
I won't use it as my identity. So don't call me Clive Edwards. You can call me Clive if you like. It says in the Bible you are to remain in the calling that you're called by. The Bible tells you all these things. So anyway, going back to the grey parrots, if you start talking about grey parrots, I've got Rebecca Chalmers in front of me. And this is what we do with the council every time. They write a letter to Rebecca Chalmers and start talking about this policy, that policy. When in fact you should turn around if you're not on the electoral roll and say, whoa, hang on a minute. I'm Clive and I don't know anything about grey parrots. I don't know anything about your policies. It's nothing to do with me. I'm over here on the lawful side. That seems like United Kingdom stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not mentally insane. I don't live in the United Kingdom.
No, it's not physically possible. So how long does it take and who do you write to the Attorney General? How do you get yourself off the electoral register? And what are the implications of doing so, just so people know?
Yeah, so I didn't follow through on that point earlier. I said the King, I said I didn't follow through because this is relevant for the Attorney General. So the King wears 2 crowns of office, and then underneath the King you've got judges. They swear 2 oaths. Now they swear 2 oaths because the King's got 2 crowns. One oath is to the office of the United Kingdom, and the other oath. Now it takes very careful, diligent reading. This isn't something. If it was easy to read, everyone would know about this stuff. But and I had a particular interest in finding out about it because, again, my freedom depended on it. So judges swear 2 oaths because of the 2 jurisdictions. This rolls down to your police. A police officer is also a police constable. And a police constable swears an oath to protect the people, not citizens, not the electorate, people. Yeah. And a police officer, clues in the title, that's to do with his office of the United Kingdom.
Right.
And this goes down to local councils, which we'll get into the bread and butter of this in a minute. This is your local council, again, evidences those 2 roles of state, those 2 things. I said at the very start, you can only ever be in one of 2 jurisdictions and one of 2 things. So you're either going to be in the legal jurisdiction or the lawful jurisdiction, and you're either going to be one of the people or one of the electorate, citizens, subjects. So your council evidences this, and this is where I am able to evidence it all through the state. And when you can evidence it all, clearly they don't want you in the courts because you're just using their rule book saying, well, doesn't your rule book say this? It's kind of it's like the emperor's clothes job, isn't it?
So for people that don't know, every council has its own constitution, which are the rules they must abide by. It doesn't necessarily apply to us, but that they have to follow those rules. And if you read through them with a hawk eye, you can spot what Clive is talking about. So I'll put some on the screen. Is there any particular ones you want to start with, Clive?
Yeah, I think it's important. I've never explained this properly, Rachel, on any other. This is the first public time I've explained this, so it'll be interesting to a lot of people listening to this. Now, I'm going to make a differential between the Constitution you spoke about at the start, the Bill of Rights, and the Council's Constitution. The Bill of Rights, the English Constitution, is that statutory stuff on the books for citizens and subjects.
Right.
That's to do with the body. That's to do with governing citizens and subjects. The big difference with the Council's Constitution that I refer to often is that deals with the structure of law and governance. Just like the King, that's why the key offices of state have these 2 jurisdictions that they have to oversee. If you're talking about the English Constitution, then you're clearly talking about the English political construct. That's to deal with subjects. But like the king he astrides 2 jurisdictions, then the judge astrides 2 jurisdictions. So do the police, and so do the council. These are the key offices of state.
Mm.
So therefore, in the council's constitution, it deals with the electorate and the people. Whereas the English constitution only deals with citizens and subjects. I don't rely on an English constitution to gain my rights because that's political.
No, I've only come across this recently because once I landed on that, I thought, aha, I've got it. This is, and then Claire interviewed Will Keat and he kind of went through it and I go, maybe not then.
Yeah. So the English constitution does give the English
it's better than rights. Yeah, it does. It's better than what we're living through now. It's a definite improvement.
Yeah, you're right. For a start, you've got a right to bear arms, which a UK citizen. Now, UK and England and Wales are different jurisdictions. Anyone that's registered a company will be doing so as one of the electorate, a citizen of the United Kingdom, yet they can register a company in England and Wales. That's a different political construct jurisdiction. It's really simple.
Yeah, they've made it so complicated that the average person just goes straight over your head.
Yeah, it's really hard, if you're flapping around at sea and you can't swim, but it's taken many years to understand this. So I started to look at their policies, and anyway, eventually I come across this document called a constitution, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I started reading it. It's a huge document. It's hundreds of pages long.
Mm.
Anyway, I found something that was very interesting. And at section C, it says that Mendip District Council are to find ways of effectively and regularly communicating with the electorate and the people of Mendip. Okay. This is such a small word, and. But if there aren't 2 different jurisdictions, and if people in the electorate are all the same, why on earth do you need the word "and" in there? This is what I mean by being forensic when you read this stuff.
Yeah, you've really got to be on it, haven't you?
Right. Yes, you have, yeah. And so they differentiate in there. I'll get on to point out some really good bits in a minute, but that to me jumped out at me because I knew I wasn't one of the electorate and I knew I was one of the people. In legal terms, the legal lot call the people under God people, all right? So the Bible goes on to explain in more detail what we are, but the legal lot, when they talk about people, they're talking about the lawful jurisdiction under God. So there it is, right there in Mendip District Council's constitution. There's to explore ways of being accountable to the electorate and the people of Mendip. So again, it differentiates again.
Can you see that, Clive? Has it come up on screen?
It has come up on my screen, yeah.
Okay, good. Because I can only see myself. I can't actually see what I'm sharing. But okay, well, that's the bit. Yeah. 3A, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the bits I'm reading out now are highlighted on the screen there that you've got. I've sent you. There's two pages of this I've given you.
Okay.
One's that one there. One's a load of red box. That's it. That's the other one. So I'll just pull out a couple of your audience can pause this and examine it. And it's in loads of my presentations online as well. But I'll just read out a few of the key points from it. And so under the heading, the main responsibilities and duties of a councillor to Mendip District Council, it states at point D, to represent the community and bring the views of the electorate and, is that word again, and the people of Mendip into the council's decision-making processes, interests identified within the ward and the ward as a whole. So that's really key. Again, we got, they've split up the ward and the ward as a whole. It's that word and again. And that's because, and I'll evidence it, I've evidenced it in other constitutions.
Because they're all different, aren't they? Every council's is slightly different.
Yes, they changed the word. They don't make it very easy to find, but I find it and evidenced in many. And so, again, just to point out, we'll to get on to Gravesend in a minute, because Gravesend's a really, really obvious one. It's a beautiful one. So this here talks about the electorate and the people, and it talks about, that's all right, you had Gravesend there, yeah.
Oh, I did.
And it talks about the ward and the ward as a whole. Well, of course, the electorate are in their ward, and the ward as a whole will include people, those that didn't vote for in the elections. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go on to Gravesend. Now, this is just plain as the nose on my face. Gravesend Borough Council. At 5.12, it states, allow local people to have a real and informed say about issues that affect them. Okay, that's straightforward enough.
Mm-hmm.
In the very next line, it says, explain to the electors and council taxpayers the reasons for particular policies and priorities. So if something's being explained to you...
You've not got a say in it, have you?
No. They're their little children. Again, you're wards of the state. So they
Mm,
lump electors and council taxpayers together. Like
yeah.
they're the lowest position at law you can be in, being one of the electorate and being a council taxpayer.
Hiding in plain
I mean,
sight, isn't it?
exactly, it's right there. Allow local people to have a real informed say. Now, that's two examples from two councils that I've just pulled out. And actually, a member of Capillary found this one in Gravesend. So I used Mendip District Council's constitution to point out. Now, their constitution is so important. They may not believe in God. They may think I'm talking absolute garbage, and that's fine. But they do understand and they do believe their own constitution.
Yeah, they're
Because
legally bound by it, aren't they?
yeah, they are governed by it. They're bound by it. And
Mm.
every one of their constitutions defines what ultra vires means. And that
Mm-hmm.
means going beyond the law. So they understand that. And when I started pointing out this stuff in their constitution, they went like it was like touching a snail on the head.
Do you think they will do away with these or alter them a lot with devolution?
That is not, well, it's not so much devolution, Rachel, I believe, because look, there aren't many people left at Britain.
Mm.
So from God's perspective, it's like, where's all my people gone? And from the legal perspective, they're like, well, they're all citizens now. Let's move on to ID. And really, that's where we're at, I believe.
Mm.
There's no people left to govern, and they're going to change these constitutions, I'd imagine. So why reflect the position of people if there's none left?
Mm. So if it's left out, if the word people is left out of their constitution, then what would happen?
Well, I mean, I can still evidence it throughout other parts of state. You know what I mean? I'm not reliant solely on their constitution.
Okay, right.
When people imagine like the government's coming for me, they tend to think of London. They tend to think, but when government comes for you, it'll be your local council.
Yeah, that's why we did Council Watch, because we knew the action is at local level. It's not government.
It isn't to do with London. Don't go to London. Deal with it here.
Mm.
Deal with it locally. They've got a constitution that says they have to be accountable to you. I will repeat what this Gravesend one says. Allow local people to have a real and informed say about the issues that affect them. But I can guarantee you, Gravesend, just like Mendip and maybe Colchester, how many of the people have come forward?
Well, I can tell you from first-hand experience, they don't listen to people the residents of Colchester. They just ever so polite nod their head and say, on your way.
They don't have to, because as Gravesend evidence is right here, they explain the reasons for their policies to the electors and the council taxpayers, but they're accountable to people.
Yeah.
They've never had any of the people show up.
Mm. Let's see if we've got Colchester. Oh, no, that's something else. District, ward.
Should we go to that? Should we go to district a minute? Because that's really important.
Yeah, let's do that.
This is the definition of district. This will really resonate, I'm sure, with you and your audience. So the district is, by definition, a territory under the jurisdiction of a lord or officer. So, and we didn't get onto a torn, but yeah, you're under. So if you're in a district, you're under a lord or an officer, and it's the restraining of offenders' jurisdiction. Well, you broke the first commandment if you're one of the electorate and live in the United Kingdom, in a district of the United Kingdom. So you are an offender. That's why they pick you up. But this is the absolute icing on the cake. Claire Wills Harrison spoke about a feudal system. She's right. This is a district. This is what it says. A feudal system, area of jurisdiction, a district. So a district, that's all it says. It says it's an area of jurisdiction, just like the United Kingdom. That's all it is, an area of jurisdiction, within which the Lord may take and withhold personal property for legal reasons. It's telling you right there.
What does distrain mean?
Distraint. Well, if you've ever had a bailiff's letter,
no.
They'll send you a letter of distraint. They can come and take your goods. That's where the word distress comes from.
Oh, yes.
You get a letter of distraint. And that's exactly, again, these words are what gave me the jigsaw pieces to help me fill in the bigger picture. And all the electors and the citizens live in a district. So that is very poignant. And so we're going to ward now, if you like.
Yeah.
Because when you vote from a ward. And I explained earlier that a ward is an infant of the state. We spoke at the very start about what a ward was. And that just confirms it here. It's a minor under control of a guardian.
Well, they do treat us like children.
Well, they do for a very particular legal reason, because you are in the eyes of the law.
Yeah.
That's why they explain stuff to you, just like parents explain to their children, what does this mean? What does that do?
Mm-hmm. Who's your
But
told?
they allow people to have a real informed say about issues that affect them. If Colchester Council had 100 of the people turn up who went about properly getting themselves off the electoral register and reintroduced themselves, says, hi, I'm Rachel. I'm not Rachel Matthews. I'm Rachel. I'm one of the people. Now we need to have a chat. That's different. And every council has got a section 151 officer, and his sole duty, or one of his duties, is to ensure that that council is not run ultra vires. In other words, he's to ensure that that council runs to its constitution.
And you
Now
think
then,
151 officer would know the difference?
well, Mendip. Now, that's a really good point. So I had to educate Mendip District Council on this. I don't think they've had one of the people come forward before.
Right.
But when I did educate them on this, they backed off.
Right.
They told me they hired an expert in planning law from South Wales to come and have a meeting with me to try and prosecute me. And we had a meeting. At the end of the meeting, he said, Clive, we do not want to take you to court.
And how many years ago was this, Clive?
Probably, I would say anything from 5 to 7 years ago, maybe something like that, maybe 8 years ago, like a long time ago. Yeah, probably 6
So
years
prior
ago.
to AI, because my concern is they would do what I've done in the research and go, oh no, we just ignore that.
No, it's there.
At the end of the day, you've got to get them to see what you're talking
This is the
about.
other thing, Rachel. This is the other thing. Because I understand this, I don't care what anybody else says. Bearing in mind, I had the weight of the state on my shoulders. I don't care what anyone else's opinion on it is, because I can go to the Constitution and I can find it. And again, I had to educate my council. They didn't even know.
No, I'm not surprised.
But I knew. And that's what I'm trying to impart now, is to try and give people now the ammunition, the way out of this digital ID jungle.
Yeah, we must know who we are and where we stand.
Yeah, this is the only way out. No English constitution is going to help you.
No.
No legal act of parliament is going to help you. Only being one of the people under God is the only way out. We're in biblical times. We're in, like, as I say, our little friend Yuval Noah Harari wants to do horrible things to mankind. And if you're one of their citizens, then he might well just get his way. But he won't. He'll have a hard job doing it to the people.
So we need more people in Britain.
We do, Rachel. Yeah, that's been my mission. And so you've just put God in my country on there. And I thought I'd put that in just to highlight the fact that back in the day, a prisoner he could have pleaded to be tried by God or country. There's only 2 jurisdictions. This is out of Black's Law Dictionary.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd put that on there. I thought it was a useful thing just to evidence a little bit, a bit further the 2 jurisdictions that I talk about. And yeah, that's the legal system. The body politic can't show you what the United Kingdom is, so they give you a flag and some heraldry. And it mimics that system.
Yeah,
the system. So they got a body politic on one side, and you've got the body of Christ there. You've got a family on the other side, and that family is headed up by King Charles, and on this side is headed up by Christ. So they just mimic it. Because the system's perfection, they just mimic it.
And corrupt it.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. I don't believe the system's corrupt. There are obviously corrupt in any system, but the system, the legal and lawful system isn't corrupt. It's perfection. I've used the law to keep the state off of my back and to be free. So it can be used, but first of all, we have to take responsibility. We have to get ourselves in the right capacity as one of the people, not as one of the electorate.
Do you know how long it takes to get off the electoral register?
Well, I'll give you 2 options. One, I wrote to the Attorney General, because to turn means to turn from one lord and go and serve another lord. So again, we've only got 2 jurisdictions. There's a lord on each side. We've evidenced that. So the word "atorn" means to turn away from one lord. So we turned away from our Father in heaven and went and be subject of a king. That's why the word "atorn" means what it does, and that's why there's an Attorney General in office. So I wrote to him.
Okay.
I wrote to him and said, this is years ago, told him some of the things we've spoken about here. And I also, you can also I know a lot of the electorate. What they do is they ring up their local council and say, "I'm moving out of the United Kingdom," which is
correct, sort of.
don't tell them you're moving back to Britain. Just tell them you're moving out of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And they'll take you, in most cases, pretty straightforward. They'll take you off the electoral register.
Okay. Right. And what are the ramifications of that? Because, so for example, as you know, I want to buy some land. I haven't found any yet, but I want to buy that. When you come to do those types of things, is it better to, because you already had your land, is it better to just go play ball until you've got your land and then come off, or does it not matter?
Really good question. So up until recently, I would have advised people to buy it through like a limited company. Because a limited company, it's not you, it's your, even in the eyes of the legal system, you're once removed, as they would see you as a director.
Yeah.
But how they write, if you go to Companies House, how they write the directors of these companies is exactly the same as they write it on a birth certificate. So therefore, I got to use evidence. So if I bought it through a limited company, the council came to me and said, "You own the land," I'd say, "No, I don't." I'd show them their birth certificate, their certified copy of an entry, as proof of evidence that that's the director and that's not me, because it says at the bottom, warning not to be. So when you understand this system well enough, you can use their rules and their paperwork to give you safety from their system, if you like.
Yes, prior to this verification, I had been told, yeah, definitely get the land through your company. Yeah. And also land agents don't like dealing with the public because they're flaky. They'll take offers more seriously if it comes through a company. But anyway, one's now off the table. So what would you advise?
Well, I think now you just have to get it through the birth, because you're going to have to look again. You have to be in the world and of if you want some land. And again, it says in the Bible that the land is mine forever; it shall not be bought or sold. So that's why the don't buy and sell land; they buy and sell titles.
Yeah,
right. That's why that is. So you can go and so Rachel cannot buy a title. No. Rachel Matthews, to be more exact, Mrs. Rachel Matthews, will go to a solicitor, buy a title, and go through that conveyance, the legal system, to get a title. Yeah. Now, one of their Crown's electorate will move off of that piece of God's earth and allowing Rachel to move on to that God's earth.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody says that Mrs. Matthews is Rachel. Even they know that.
Yeah,
but
okay.
we, in our minds, confuse the two. To confuse means to take two things and fuse them together. That's what confuse means, and that's what we've done for most of our lives. We thought we lived in the United Kingdom and we're Mrs. Matthews and Mr. Edwards. So yeah, in short, I would use the birth certificate and just
which
get
I've
it.
Lost.
Right, yeah. But you might not. I mean, solicitors now they'll take a passport.
Yeah.
And that's all their person stuff. That's all their citizen stuff. So
you go through it, you sign it as your legal fiction because a lot of the land comes with covenants and all whatnot, and then you say, right, by the way, I'm now Rachel.
Yeah. They know it's not you. Now we know it's not you. You mentioned previously that thought about buying land and putting it in a trust. Let's dispel the myth of trusts.
Yes, please do.
Because we've evidence there's only two jurisdictions: the legal jurisdiction and God's lawful jurisdiction.
Yeah.
The legal lot know that God owns all the land. It says in the Bible, the land is mine forever, it shall not be bought or sold. The legal lot say that the Bible is the infallible truth. That's why this lot, the legal lot, don't sell land, they sell you a title. So to stay in favour with God, they just sell titles. Okay? So, tell me, what exactly do you think you're going to put in the trust?
Well, yeah, just the title, isn't it?
Whose title is it?
Theirs. So I'm in the wrong
Bingo.
system. Yeah.
Bingo. So that's theft.
Yeah.
That's why they're getting to beat you up. Now, I've got members of Capillary Wave who've come to me, who are members now of our website, who had previously had land in a trust, and the council still came after the trustees and did all that. They're going to... There's only the public system in private. The lawful system's private. And the public... everything else is out in the public. Claire Wills Harrison will confirm that, I'm sure. That's what, because she said in the interview with you that you don't own any of the land.
Yeah, she did.
Absolutely, you don't own the land because the Crown does.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why you can't put it in a trust. Whatever you think you're going to put in a trust is theft. What you're going to put the land in it, you're going to dig up the land and put that in. That's weird. That can't happen. That's God's.
Yeah.
So to put a title in a trust, then that's theft.
Yeah.
So that's why it won't work, and that's why the system's perfect.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks for clearing that up. That's probably saved me a lot of hassle trying to research that. So really, it's a very simple system in the, it's just a matter of getting through to people who don't understand all this, and that's where you have to do the battling.
It's simple to understand. I mean, it's taken me 15 years to make it sound this simple.
I'm
Okay.
not surprised.
Yeah. It's taken me a long time to make it sound this simple. And it is simple once we understand it. But you're going to have to now, the analogy I use is we've been on the government run duck farm for an awfully long time.
Yeah.
Rachel Matthews quacking like one of their ducks, walking like one of their ducks. So they think, quite rightly, well, Rachel, you've been one of our ducks for an awfully long time.
Yeah.
What do you mean you want to leave the farm? You might have to come and have a chat with one of our judges. And that's the threat that they make. But if you get, I mean, I went to extreme lengths I put my life on hold and for a very long time and dived into this in a very methodical, deep, forensic way. So I've got that much ammunition on them. They're like, this guy, we can't take him to court, man. This is because I'm just going to use their laws to prove my point, just like I've done today on a much smaller scale. So what's the point in taking me to court? I'm one of the people. Like they'd have to drag me to court. Like I've got such an attitude about this, Rachel, that I'd go to the guillotine rather than be told I'm Mr. Edwards. Now that can only come from a burning conviction. That there's no coincidence that belief and conviction mean the same thing.
Know thyself.
100%, yeah. And just to, my conviction is so strong from the Bible that no judge is ever going to convince me that I'm one of their citizens, and I just to jump track a minute. I prove this system. I can prove this system. You'll like this because I see you've done things on parking around Colchester. Well, I can prove this system and everything we've spoken about today via parking tickets.
Ooh, go ahead. Yes, it was Sudbury. It was the next county where they enforced those.
Okay, so I'm going to tell your audience now how they can get out of paying parking tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So, quite often when you contravene some private parking ticket, and they'll send you a picture of your car, maybe even you behind the wheel of your car, and on that PCN parking contravention notice, it'll say pay us 60 quid. You overstayed the stay at Colchester Town Hall, Colchester CN 43DX. Now we've just talked about for an hour how the United Kingdom is a political construct. It doesn't exist. It only exists in our minds.
So therefore, you cannot park on something that doesn't exist.
You cannot park. That's why it's an alleged offence. They tell you you've committed an alleged offence. This applies to speeding tickets as well.
I was going to say, is speeding an alleged offence?
It is alleged because any civil offence is an alleged offence. If it's criminal, if you've hurt someone, like different. And so it should be. This is civil. I'm talking about civil matters.
Yeah.
Of the secular civil system. It's based on lies, based on fictions. Fictions are lies. So they say to you, look, it's alleged that you've parked overstayed. It's alleged means without proof.
Mm-hmm.
Once your belief aligns with their allegation, you're convicted. They've now got a conviction. The two marry up. You believe their allegation. Bang, conviction.
Well, with a speeding ticket, they got a picture of you sitting behind the wheel going,
yeah. So let's go back to parking. So they say that you've parked the car at Colchester Town Hall, Colchester CN 313DZ. That is the postal address of the United Kingdom. All pretty straightforward, isn't it? Yeah. So now a court case and a fine, things go to court because either no remedy's been offered or no remedy's been accepted. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason you need a court case for civil matters.
Yeah.
To do away with court and to do away with the parking fine, all you need to do is do a bit of due diligence and then offer a remedy. So the due diligence is, I see your alleged, the allegation against me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to take your word for it that it's true and you work for the landowner.
Mm-hmm.
So just to make sure this isn't a scam, please send me evidence that you do, in fact, that, the guy you work for owns the land.
Mm-hmm.
And a title is not proof of ownership. The V5 document for your car states that much.
Right. So if it was a speeding fine,
let's go back to just keep it with parking at the moment.
Okay.
So you tell the parking company, I'll pay the fine on the condition that obviously you provide proof of the land ownership from the guy you're working for. That's common sense, isn't it? That's basic due diligence.
Mm.
So it's a bit like me saying, Rachel, you owe me £5,000, and you're like, oh, I may well do, Clive. Just send proof, send the invoice, send a copy of the invoice, and I'll pay you by return.
Yeah.
Same deal.
Mm.
You parked on our UK postal address, so you don't get into the argument about that. You just say, okay, prove it. Basically, yeah, send me proof that he owns the land,
Mm.
and then it can't go to court because the court's only there to offer remedy. So you're not saying you're not going to pay it. You'll say, I'm going to pay it just
Yeah.
upon receipt of proof.
Proof. Okay.
And it will go. That goes away fairly quickly because they can't provide the proof.
No, because no one owns the land.
Say, well, you owe us 60 quid, and you say, yeah, I did say I'd pay it when you provided the proof. To make sure this is a scam. And as of yet, you haven't. The minute you provide the proof, I'll pay it.
Yeah.
And they can't do it.
No.
So a parking ticket proves very easily what we've spoken about for the last hour or so.
Mm. Okay, great. Do we want to quickly look at, because you did some work on both Braintree and Colchester's constitution?
Yeah, I mean, you could put it up to be. I've because I thought I'm coming on Colchester's council watch. I best have a look at Colchester.
I think we should.
So, just in there, I've highlighted here for your audience some of the various things we've spoken about today.
Mm.
Now, searching for these things in constitutions, it'll never say that a councillor represents the people. That can't happen. That councillors can represent the constituent, the electorates, the electorate, and the council taxpayers, but they can't represent the people.
Yeah, or citizens.
Yeah, that's right. So I've just highlighted in that section of the Constitution there some of the different things that we've spoken about today. So it says there councillors represent their constituents. Mentions citizens and also mentions people. Below, I've done that again on the red. Can you see the red and blue box I've highlighted on the other page? There you go. So it says here in the red box, the establishment of an open and streamlined decision-making process within which the views of the local people are given full consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar to Gravesend Borough one we just read out.
Full consideration does still sound like they'll think about it, that they won't do it.
Yeah, it does indeed. But if you're operating from if you understand what you are, who and what you are, and where you live,
they have to listen to you.
Trust me, they'll be taking and you press your case because again, I had to educate Mendip District Council on this. It's not like they knew, or they may have known, but they were certainly I had to press it to them. So the citizenry, the current residents out there listening to this, you're going to have to do the same.
The blue box made me laugh. The council as leader in the local community working on behalf of the citizens of Colchester.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, again, so those two boxes just differentiate the two positions at law that you can be. And I thought I'd do Braintree as well.
Yeah, that's back here, I think. Because it was interesting just how different they were, because Braintree, here we go, mentioned the people 24 times, I think it was, but they didn't mention citizens, they didn't mention residents or the electorate, but you found that they mentioned constituents, which I hadn't searched for. So you've each of these things, the wording is going to be subtly different.
It is subtly different. They just try to keep it confusing, so you can't make it a template across all. But one of the key things I can help with people searching their own, who might be from anywhere on Britain, would be you can do word searches and search for the word ward, and then you might find, or search for the word whole, WHOLE. So you then might find the distinction between the ward and the ward as a whole, because then somewhere around there you'll find about people and residents or citizens, because they do change the words a little bit.
Yeah. And
they will throw a real curveball in there. Sometimes they'll use people as a pronoun.
Oh, okay.
And the word pronoun, they do that in Acts of Parliament. And a pronoun, it means it's a substitute for another word.
Okay.
So in Acts of Parliament, they will sometimes put the pronoun people in, which actually means persons. Yeah, just to make they're very tricky.
So yeah, this one says accountable to local people. And then when it goes, the purpose of the Constitution, help councillors represent their constituents more effectively and ensure those responsibilities for decision-making are clearly identifiable to local people and that they explain the reasons.
Yeah, and so, but again, what I would say is, what I did is, is you got to press this home to them, because This document evidences two different jurisdictions. It evidences people, residents, and citizens.
Mm.
What I would do, and what I would advise your audience to do, is to go to their constitution and say, "You're clearly talking about people here and constituents and council taxpayers. They're clearly different things."
Yeah.
And just to let you know, I'm one of the people. If they weren't things, it would just say citizens throughout every constitution, throughout the entire document. They wouldn't need to differentiate, and they wouldn't need to differentiate between the ward and the ward as a whole. It wouldn't be necessary.
Mm.
Which is why I started this conversation off with the question, do your audience believe that there is another way of living outside of London, outside of Parliament, outside of politicians? There is.
Hopefully they do now.
Today. There is, but you have to understand who and what you are and where you live.
Yeah. And it's all hidden in plain sight. So where can people find you, Clive? CapillaryWave.com, is that the best place?
CapillaryWave.com. I'll send you a link to all my links there, Rachel. I'm on YouTube, Clive Edwards. If you search my name, search what I'm called, sorry, on YouTube, you'll find my channel there. And CapillaryWave.com is my website where I got all these articles that explain much of this, yeah.
And you do various events up and down the country, and also you've got a members area where you're helping educate people, or what do you do in your members area? Tell people about that.
Our members area really is just a membership to a private community where we talk about and people share their legal problems and things. And there's people that have bought land, land, capital L land, as in title to land. So they are going about claiming their freedom, if you like, and doing similar things to what I've done with my own small holding here. So yeah, so the membership is to a private community. We've got our own forum and things there, and yeah, I've been around the country a lot this year, doing talks at various places, explaining some of this, how the system works.
I mean, it's both simple and it sounds too simple, and at the same time it's like, it's going to be such a battle to get this through because we're just not taught to think like this. So you have to have a complete shift in mind and understanding of who you are. And once you've got that,
I often explain it as it's like a 4-year-old. Like we've been 4-year-olds in the cockpit of a Boeing 747.
Yeah, we're going to crash.
We're screaming and crying because we don't know. It's like the airplane's corrupt.
Yeah,
the airplane isn't corrupt. Take responsibility.
Understand how
it works. And you're right, it can sound too simplistic. But I often think back to, well, Jesus didn't have to go and do a law degree, and nor should you. Once you understand who and what you are, where you live, you don't have to do a law degree.
No.
You cut through all of the BS.
Taking yourself out of that system.
Yeah, you only need to complicate. The legal system's complicated for a reason, to keep people confused.
Yes, if it's they do an excellent job of it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Clive, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything you'd like to end with that we haven't covered?
I'd just like to say thank you very much, Rachel. Thanks for inviting me onto your channel, and it's been enjoyable chatting to you. And I really hope your audience takes something from this, because it's channels like the work that you're doing, channels like this, and the support from your audience. These are clearly people interested and engaged in local politics. So this information, if taken and ran with, could be very, very powerful indeed.
Absolutely. And thank you for being willing to share this and, put your head above the parapet, because, we know they don't want this information. If more people knew this, we'd be in a very different position within this country. This landmass.
I would say the people already know this, but if more residents knew this, then we'd be able to hold the government to account.
Yeah, you've got to be so careful with the language, haven't you? You've really got to get it ingrained. So,
yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Clive. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Rachel.